Welcome to Storytime, brought to you by the OWSCyCon2019, the online book event of the year.
March 1992. Care to explain yourselves? The officer barked, her steel-gray eyes studying the trio of young women before her. One of the ladies, a rather curvy one who seemed to be the group's leader, stepped forward. Feline ears poked out from her dark, knee-length hair, a fluffy tail protruding from her back end. Yes, see, we call ourselves the Slaughter Angels, ma'am. We're a group of assassins, and you're sort of, no offense, in our way right now, she said, giving a surprisingly kind smile. The official crossed her arms, staring down her long nose at the younger woman and her cohorts. One of the others stood at attention, hands behind her back and her pale red eyes studying her. The other, however, showed no such respect, one hand on her cocked hip and the other holding an open flask of alcohol, the contents strong enough that it could be felt from yards away. The drunkard's turquoise eyes gazed upon the older woman in an almost teasing way, as if she was just looking for an opening to mess with her. She narrowed her eyes, pulling out a small electronic device. She held it up, the assassins looking at it curiously. It reminded them of a mobile phone, but it was much smaller, more flat, but not quite paper-thin. Beast Taylor, she murmured, scanning the Catwoman with her device. Genetic experiment, age 19. The respectful one was scanned next, the official reading off her findings. Yvette Sangre, age 15. Witch. That's unusual. Last I knew, magic was only a myth. With a sigh, Yvette produced a ball of red light in the palm of her hand. Not a myth, I promise. Right. And Ivy Sangre, age 15. Psychic and... I see a lot of question marks here. Taking a quick swig from her flask, Ivy grinned. Yeah, we're all still trying to figure out exactly what I am. Beast put her hands on her hips, eyeing the stranger. And just who the hell are you? She asked. The woman put her scanner on her belt, crossing her arms. I am Officer Marjorie Payne of the ATR. The assassins looked to one another, Beast briefly wondering if this woman had misspelled art, but Yvette was the one to raise her hand. What is the ATR? Agency of Temporal Relations. Ah, so 10 cops, basically. And what's that thing? Abby asked, pointing to the scanner. Payne rolled her eyes, arms crossed. That's standard issue for my work. It does every required task from scanning to transport. Officer Payne cleared her throat. I've been asked to bring in a woman by the name of Darlena Williams. She's been attempting to disrupt the timeline. With a twitch of her ears, Beast looked up at Officer Payne, who had a good 8 inches on her. Yeah, we know all about what she's been up to, she said. Why do you think we're after her? Payne poked a bony finger into Beast's sternum, eyes regarding her coldly. For a quick buck, clearly. In the case of the Sangre degenerate, she pointed to Ivy, booze money that she shouldn't really have in the first place. You're all children. This sort of mission is much too dangerous for 3 children, no matter how much they like to play at being assassins. Now go away and make some real plans for your future, girls. The trio stared at her for a moment, unsure how to process what she just said to them. What they did know was that the verbal slap to their collective face would not be taken lightly. Was this woman completely unaware of the hellish training they had endured to become assassins in the first place? There was at least one mock execution involved in said training, and Ivy's underage drinking was for medical reasons. That scan had indicated that she wasn't an ordinary human, after all. But they weren't going to argue. They just handled this on their own. Ivy strode over toward Payne, putting an arm around her. You know what, officer? You're right. We should just sit back, think about our futures, all that crap. Best of luck hunting this lady down. Payne gingerly pushed the teen's hand from her shoulder before turning on a heel and walking away. As soon as she was far enough away, Ivy held up the device that had previously been used to scan them. Yvette gasped. Ivy, are you insane? You stole that. With a chuckle, Ivy started to tinker with the scanner, hoping to get some idea of how it worked. Vet, we're professional killers, and yet theft is where you draw the line. But you stole from a cop, a time cop. Plus, you heard how condescending she was, calling us kids, right? She brought this on herself. Yvette shook her head in disappointment. No good can come of this, Ives. You should know better by now. Before Ivy could retort, Officer Payne came storming back over, nostrils flared. You know, guys, I think she's mad, Beast said, head tilted somewhat. Yvette turned to the trio's eldest member, incredulous. Are you kidding me right now? she grumbled. Officer Payne crossed her arms, glaring at the girls. How dare they even consider this course of action? She marched up to Ivy, holding out her hand for the device. Of course, Ivy knew what it was Payne really wanted from her, but that didn't stop her from bringing the palm of her own hand down on her palm. All right, now, up top, she added, holding up her hand for a high five next. I demand that you hand over that device, Sangre. Now. The teenager bit her lip for a moment, chewing on it in apparent thought. No, I don't think I will, she said finally, shrugging. And why is that? She smirked somewhat before looking the device over. Because I want to see what it does. Payne growled and reached for it, but Ivy swiped it out of her grip, running to the other side of the room. The older woman charged after her. If looks could kill, her current glare would cause worldwide devastation. People would declare it the end times. This damn kid was fast. But Payne was faster, as she dove to tackle Ivy. The girl fell, the device dropping from her hand. Yvette rushed over to retrieve it, but stopped in her tracks upon hearing a beep. Is it supposed to do that? She asked. The beeps continued, becoming louder and higher pitched. No, it's not, Payne shouted. Duck and cover! Beast and Yvette didn't need to hear that twice, both of them rushing to hide behind a chair. Payne grabbed a hold of Ivy, intent on getting the both of them to safety. They both ducked behind a different chair as the device exploded. A wave of heat washed over the room, before some force began to pull at the recliner Payne and Ivy tried to use as their refuge. Poking her head around the chair, Ivy could see a huge portal swirling in the center of the room. Ah, what the hell? She grumbled. The girl wasn't exactly distressed, or even shocked. Ivy, what the hell did you do? Yvette called from across the room, as she and Beast tried to hold on to something. Unfortunately, the only thing they really could cling to was the chair they were hiding behind. That wasn't exactly nailed down. How should I know? Hey, Major Payne, what's going on? The officer cleared her throat. It's Marjorie, and you just opened up a rift in time and space. Before anyone could get another word out, the chair Marjorie and Ivy used as cover was torn away, disappearing into the portal. Rather than be appeased by the offering of a chair, like some other entities might be, the portal swirled even faster. Bolts of lightning emerged, one striking a wall just centimeters from Beast's ear. The oldest of the trio yelped. Yvette held onto Beast's waist, soon using a spell to try and anchor the both of them in place. As for the other pair, Ivy tried to use her own abilities to keep herself and the officer from being sucked in. It required a bit more focus on her part than it did for Yvette, however. Her focus went away within seconds, the portal tearing her and Officer Payne from their spot in the corner. The force with which they were pulled toward the swirling vortex was enough to knock the younger of the two out. Payne, being a time-based cop and all, had no such trouble with it. Damn it! Yvette yelled, her own focus breaking as she saw her sister get sucked in. That little lapse in focus was enough for the portal to take the two of them as well, the pair also losing consciousness as they entered the portal. The last thing on their mind, aside, of course, from concern for their friend, was uncertainty as to where, or when, they would land.
This story time was read by Phoebe Darqueling and brought to you in conjunction with the OWSCyCon 2019. OWSCyCon runs from May 17th through May 19th. You can find us at OWSCyCon.ourrightside.com. Again, OWSCyCon.ourrightside.com. We have events happening across all genres. If you are a reader, you cannot afford to miss this event. You never know. You may just find your next best read.